Hi guys, welcome to my channel. I'm Tamar and I'm just trying to share just myself and just any type of opinions I have. So I'd love it if you just stayed along and listened to what I said. Today we're discussing Pinterest's Trends 2026 article where they basically just talked about Pinterest trend forecast, what are people searching and how that's kind of affecting what the fashion as well as home decor or any other trends will be for 2026. So in this video, I'll probably just be going through the first half of the Pinterest 2026 trends report. There were 21 trends. It was a bit hectic, so I couldn't really add everything in here. There was so much I wanted to say and so many opinions I had on everything. So yeah, let's just get into the video. So number one on Pinterest's trends was the gummy / jelly aesthetic. And I find this one really interesting because I feel like I've been seeing a lot of YouTubers and creators talking about jelly shoes and thrifting jelly shoes. And I think that this is a really cool trend that it seems really niche. It seems like a lot of people who typically dress in this style, who are very care about edible fashion, care about being over the top, being very maximalist, would probably enjoy this fashion. But I think the way that this could possibly translate into normal media is maybe with more plasticky fabric, so maybe using a bit more latex in clothing, or even just like jelly shoes like we saw I think in 2024. But even things like accessories, like how they were acrylic rings and accessories that happened in 2024, I think that will come back. So if you did maybe invest in that type of fashion, this would be a good time to bring your acrylic rings back. I think that another way it could maybe translate is maybe plastic. I don't know why I think this, but I think maybe plastic raincoats would come in this year again. It seems like a good way in which you could make this wearable fashion, a way that you could kind of translate this. And especially when I talk about the plastic raincoats, I mean those really colorful, like a yellow, pastel yellow raincoat that's this plasticky kind of material, gummy bear earrings or something like that, or even charm bracelets are really in. So I feel like maybe people would wear charm bracelets that have little gumdrops or something like that. Or even I saw this really cool jelly tot I don't know, type of diamond necklaces, which I think would be a really cool way in which you can bring this. Yeah, but I think that for the most part, this type of trend will also just kind of appear in just bright colors, different types of fabrics, even, the Kim K boot that was really in a long time ago, that clear plastic shoe, maybe that type of shoe but done in different iterations with different colors and stuff like that would be a good way in which we could bring this back, because we do know 2010s are looking up this year, so maybe that could be a way in which we bring that trend back. And then moving on to the next trend, which is Glamorati, which honestly kind of just feels like the mob wife aesthetic. So Pinterest kind of describes it as, what do they write here? Yeah, Pinterest describes this as a decade of decadence is back in style, and honestly it's about time. Tailored suits with sculpted shoulders will grow 3 sizes. Funnel necks will be the base of every outfit, and jewelry, well, that'll get chunkier, bolder and golder. Gen Z and millennials are driving this maximalist aesthetic. So yeah, I mean that's kind of a trend that we have been seeing for quite a while. Bolder silhouettes, chunkier jewelry. I remember the Tiffany cuff bracelet became really popular, and there were a lot of dupes that were going around for that. I think that these rich deep colors, we saw that with burgundy oxblood becoming really popular for winter this year, as well as just red in general, rich colors. But what I think is also different here is the 80s trend is coming back. So when I was working, I always feel like I dressed like an 80s secretary, and I think that 80s secretary type of vibes is something that is really in. What I mean by this is probably putting more padding in shoulders, more structure in suits, more pencil skirts, more pantsuits or pencil suits that people will be wearing in terms of cohorts, probably reimagined in some kind of way. But I think that will be a really cool aesthetic to have. I think we might not be as bold in color, but definitely the type of style. So I would almost say, like, think Office Siren, but in the 80s. I think that's going to be how we're going to translate this. Another way in which I think, like, because we're talking a lot about aesthetics and fur, I think we're seeing a big resurgence in fur jackets and fur capes and fur trimmings on coats and such. But I think what we will see in terms of a more wearable fashion in this sense will probably be fur accents. I actually did add, I saw like this old pair of like fur tails that my mom had, and I added like them to my backpack, and I thought that would be a cool way in which I could explain this, is that I think that people will definitely be adding fur in accents. So fur charms like I had on my bag, or like fur cuffs, just fur headbands, fur earmuffs, fur pilot hats, like where you have those hats that you tie here, but then they'll have fur by the ears. I think that's going to come back quite huge, and I think that's going to be more of an attainable way in which people can do this, also a more sustainable way. So if you are trying to get into this trend, you could go into a thrift store, and instead of maybe thrifting an entire fur jacket, which might not necessarily be very conducive to normal living, you could probably just get like a little fur tail or a fur charm or something like that to add. And then moving on, I also think another fabric that we will be seeing making a resurgence is probably snakeskin. I think we saw snakeskin print becoming really popular. I've been seeing that. But I think we're going to see an actual resurgence in the actual texture of snake. I think we'll see this. I've been seeing a lot of croc bags, a lot of lizard bags type of things, especially with Hermes and things becoming popular once again, alligator skin type of things. So I think snake skin will also be coming back in terms of clothing, pants, etc. It actually made me realize like a really good sustainable way in which you could possibly invest in new snake skin items. Instead of using snake skin, you could probably use fish skin. There's a really cool South African company that takes fish waste, like, you know, from fisheries and stuff that make like fish fingers or processed fish goods. They take the fish skin that is usually discarded and they make fish leather out of it, and it has a very similar texture to snake skin. So I think that would be a really cool way to kind of get into that trend while still being sustainable in some kind of way. Okay, the next trend I'm seeing here is poetcore or inner-protagonist. Let's see what they are saying about it. So it seems like this is aspiring authors assemble. In 2026, Gen Z and millennials will channel their inner protagonists with oversized turtlenecks, vintage blazers, and messenger satchels. And oh, don't forget the fountain pen. Consider this your aesthetic. No student loans acquired. Acquired or required? Sorry, guys. So I think this is again like bringing back the idea of, I think tailoring is going to be back. More traditional silhouettes are going to be back. It's almost like a mixture of dark academia and the quiet luxury. The tortured poet almost will kind of be a thing here, where I think that like we're seeing vintage blazers, oversized trench coats, a theme that has kind of been within, I guess, general society for a bit now. But I think here maybe we will see more structured silhouettes, or even more of an exhausted poet. So the frumpy poet that's wearing a crinkled shirt and maybe, you know, busy writing and frantic. I think again with the theme of analog becoming really popular again and people wanting to go back to journaling. I think a lot of people have been talking their New Year's resolutions of writing something. I even saw recently on TikTok that people are like making curriculums to kind of, you know, package their written items. I think people are really attracted to going back to content that is theirs and that they can physically own. I think this is kind of channeling that kind of essence, and I think fashion is a really good way of expression. So I think this is how people are expressing themselves in this kind of regard. So I think this will continue to occur, and I think the tortured poet is such a good way of wording it, and kind of translates very well to dark academia. I think we'll see a lot of tweed, we'll see a lot of darker colors. I think also the Met Gala, in a weird way, the Met Gala themes always are a good premonition of what will trend. So in the 1 year we had camp, a lot of campy outfits kind of trended for the rest of the year. And last year we had the black tailoring, and I think that's going to really come back in clothing, kind of. I think every time artists or designers have to do a Met Gala, they kind of get inspired a lot, and it does translate and trickle down into our everyday fashion, which I think is really, really cool. So I think we kind of saw this kind of tortured poet or beautiful tailoring or artistry that is indicated through poetry, art, and history, and I think that that will continue to translate within the fashion of 2026. But moving on to a more non-fashion related 2026 prediction is Neo-Deco. It is the Art Deco trend is getting a modern twist, shiny, sleek, and tuned to 2026. After years of heavy minimalism, Gen X and millennials are bringing this retro aesthetic back with crisp chevrons, fan arches, and other bold, glam, and just a touch of eccentric. So for me, when I saw this, I kind of got reminded of the 70s homes, but then I did a bit more research and I realized Neo-Deco is essentially just the Art Deco trend from the 1920s, reimagined with a 70s twist and then brought back into the current modern day. So I think that this is going to be quite interesting. I think I've already kind of seen this. I've seen a lot of TikToks where people keep on talking about their 70s homes that they just bought and what they find quirky and beautiful about it. So I think that this was something that we have been seeing. I've been seeing a lot of wood, a lot of luxurious materials, people really trying to keep character in their homes, people being tired of the grey, boring aesthetic, bringing more colorful tiles in. I've been seeing different grouting techniques, a different art, people putting in their walls. And I just think people have been more maximalist with their decor as of late, which I think is really cool. I think it's kind of interesting. I've also seen people play with metals. I think we were doing just plain silver for the longest time. Now people are doing brass, they're doing gold, they're doing different things. I think that just in general, it's always nice to see people play around. I think a lot of this can be thrifted. I think this kind of style is very eccentric. I think it's a good way to add character, but I think with anything you can get a bit carried away. So I don't know how long this kind of trend will stay. Cool. But going back into fashion, we have brooches as the next trend of 2026, which I think we have been seeing. There was a bit of a resurgence of brooches, and I think that it is a very interesting kind of trend and something that I'm really, really excited of. I think that for me, there was a big resurgence in brooches, and like people were using them as buttons. Like I remember there was a thing of like using brooches as buttons on your shirts, which I think is an absolutely fantastic idea, and I think it's such a sustainable and cool way to make your existing clothing really fun and so uniquely you. I think this is also an extremely thriftable item. It's also easy for people to get into and be really creative on it. I've been seeing brooches on purses, I've been seeing brooches on pillows, I've been seeing brooches on ties, and I think that this is also a nice trend that I think transcends to different generations, genders, and it's just I love this. I think it's so cute. I think it also reminds me of like how into patches I am right now. I forgot how great patches were on fixing like old items. I recently had like a pair of shoes that I had like a little hole in, and I don't know what, I just was like, I love these shoes. They're like slippers, so they're not shoes that I wear out, but I was like, oh, I really want to wear them. They're getting old, and instead of throwing them out, I bought an iron-on patch. And I know it's not as cool as like maybe, sewing a patch on or doing a uniquely creative thing, but I think it's such a cool way to save an item, and I think it's so cool how you can use that. So I think brooches and maybe patches are really in for me this year. I do think though with this trend it can get a bit crazy. I think don't go overboard with collecting too many brooches or be too wasteful, and try to thrift this. I think that this is not something that you have to go out there and buy. Another cool thing about brooches is that brooches can kind of come from anywhere. You can really stick a pin in an old earring and it becomes a brooch. So I think this is also a really cool DIY-able trend to have and kind of repurpose maybe your old jewelry or things that you have in the house. Cool. And then going back to an interesting decor trend is funhouse or circus trend. This is interesting. I feel like we've done this before in 2020 when the like kind of curvy check print became really, really popular. And also when like the curvy stripes became really popular. I would just say that I think this is an interesting trend. I think when camp was really in, this was a trend that was really coming out. It's not exactly something that I'm very interested in, to be honest. I'm not a stripe girl at all. Like, stripes in my opinion don't look 100% the best. Something that I'm too excited for or have too much of an opinion on. A way in which I feel like would be a cool way to kind of see this translate into normal life is maybe through bedding. So like, you know, like how striped bedding has become really popular. I think striped bedding will be a really cool way to kind of be part of like the circus theme without over consuming. Maybe getting quirky red or like just items that have a little bit of shape or movement to them would be a cool way in which you could kind of translate this trend. So yeah, that's what I have to say about this. And then, it looks like we skipped a trend, so we can just go back. I've seen a trend of scent stacking is in, which I think is kind of funny because I feel like in 2024, a lot of influencers kind of started collecting a lot of perfumes. Like we saw these huge perfume collections where people would have over 100 perfumes and they would be talking about this one, and they're talking about how you have to stick one on the shelf and let it sit there, and there were all of these comments and stuff. So I think a lot of people got influenced and bought all of these scents, and now are sitting with all of these scents and realizing that there's really nothing you can do with it, which I'm kind of victim to. I didn't buy a lot of perfumes, but I got gifted a lot of perfumes in 2024, which, I mean, maybe I should talk to everyone. Maybe I stink and I really need to think about my scents. But that kind of left me with a lot of perfume, and I've been scent stacking, to be honest, just to kind of see how to kind of utilize having so much perfume at the same time. So yeah, I kind of partially agree with, I like this trend. It's like a good way of trying to get some type of purpose of our overconsumption. Cool. Then moving on to the next trend, which I think I'm the most excited for. It's so out of my comfort zone, but I just love this trend, is Vamp Romantic. But I think maybe I'm interpreting this in a different way to Pinterest. Beauty bites back with this 2026 trend. Millennials and Gen Z will go all in on an after dark aesthetic, embracing jet black nails, romantic gothic hairstyles, and a smudged coal smoky eye, all with a touch of glossy glamour. Who says you can't be both haunting and heartbreaking? So I think that with this, we are looking at whenever I think of Vamp, first I always go to Twilight, and I always think of Bella Swan. It is Bella Swan, right? That was her name, I feel. So I just always think of her, and I think that honestly, I love her aesthetic. I think the aesthetic of that movie is very much what we're talking about here when we're talking about vampires. But I also think that we will have the traditional aspects of being a vampire, or like Dracula aesthetic vampires, such as, you know, the whole chokers with the beads and the beautiful deep dark fabrics and colors. But I see this translating in a completely different way. I see this more grungy, lacy, distressed layers, almost like what's her name, Taylor Momsen, the actress that was in Gossip Girl and in The Grinch. She's amazing. She's a rock star. She has a band, but her aesthetic, her style, the way that it's like rock star chic, I imagine her to be, if anyone was secretly a vampire, I feel like she would be the modern day vampire. Black nails, beautiful white hair, pale skin, smoky eye, rock star aesthetic, very sexy, but in like this grungy way, skinny jeans, you know, that kind of like leather jacket. I'm thinking Damon Salvatore from Vampire Diaries. I think that kind of aesthetic is definitely coming in. That kind of like almost frumpy hair that's kind of like you just bed hair, you just woke up in the morning, but you're just so hot. Like, I think that's definitely what I see being really the aesthetic for this trend, and something that I'm super excited for. I think that like this is something where it really will take me out of my comfort zone. I think that I've been seeing a lot of people wear stuff like this. I see, you know, like the tops with the distressing, where someone like takes a tank top and they cut it horizontally. I think that's coming in. With like thousands of like chokers and like crosses and everything, and a lot of like Roman Catholic symbolism and stuff like that in clothing and stuff, I think is going to come back. I think chrome hearts, though chrome hearts never goes away and people love chrome hearts, I think that symbolism will trickle down even further, and we will see a lot of replications in fast fashion and so on and so forth, because that trend is really going to come back, and I think in a mainstream way. So yeah, and then so this is going to be our last trend, I think, for this video. I think I've spoken a lot already and said a lot of things. So this will be, I think the Pantone color for this year was white, which not a lot of people were happy with. So Pinterest kind of gave their own color, being cool blue, which I think is really interesting. This is what they have to say about it. Meet the shade that refuses to warm up to anyone. Gen Z and millennials are bringing a sub-zero sophistication to absolutely everything in 2026. Think cool-toned coats, glacier-inspired accessories, and the frostiest of cocktails. It's the temp drop we've all been waiting for. That's interesting. So I think this is like a baby blue, a cool icy blue type of color. I think it's quite interesting. I don't necessarily think it's very much something. I love blue. Blue is my favorite color to wear. I have a lovely blue blanket here. A lot of my accessories are blue. Like look at my like bracelets are blue and everything. I love blue. The color is amazing. And I love all sorts. So I'm very excited that blue in itself, or blue color, is the color of the season. It is my favorite color to wear, and it means I won't really have to update my wardrobe to be in season this year. But cool blue is not exactly, I mean, I did a color analysis, and apparently I did an AI inspired color analysis, and I am essentially apparently a soft autumn. I'm not 100% sure if that's true. And yeah, I'm excited about the color. I think it's much better than white, and I think that it's going to be so interesting to see in things in nails. I would love to put this on my nails. I'd love to see this in tops. I have a lot of colors like this. So I think that I'm excited to see this color in real life. The way I see this kind of translating is, again, just in normal clothes, in accents, in ribbons would be cool. I think we will see this a lot in random items. You know how when people like get a color, you'll just see it everywhere. I think we'll get pushed this kind of almost in ads and stuff first, and then we'll just start liking the color, and then people will just be like, oh my gosh, I need this color in my life. And I think because we're in winter, we'll see a lot of icy blue. I don't know how this is going to translate very much into summer, probably in like bikinis, that kind of color, but I think it's an interesting color for the season. But yeah, I have mumbled a lot, and I think it's enough for this video. Thank you so much for listening to me if you've made it to this point. And yeah, this was the first half of the Pinterest trends or Pinterest predicts article. I'll probably make another video of the, I think, last 10 or 11 that we still have to go through. I think I have so many opinions on so many, and I think maybe I would love to do a video on what my Pinterest is looking like, and my own trends that I'm very excited for or following this year. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed this. Please subscribe if you enjoyed it. I really am hoping to kind of make more videos and stuff, and I think that, yeah, I'd like to know what you liked, what you didn't. Please comment, tell me how you liked the video, and enjoy your day further. Bye.